least one of them, so.
I'm here.
Apparently it's custom.
We'll call our meeting to order and ask our clerk to please call the roll.
Mayor Hatley,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Baldwin,
Here.
Councilman Collins,
Here.
Councilman Coyne,
Here.
Councilwoman Fontana, Councilman Skidmore,
Here.
Councilman Thomas.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Today is our workshop, and it is regarding an amendment to Chapter 23 zoning of the Code of Ordinance of North Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, revising murals with commercial content, non-commercial signs, and signs for subdivisions with more than 10 lots. So I will turn it over to City Manager Ryan Fodry.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. So this is obviously something we discussed at our October 6th meeting and our October 29th meeting, and Council expressed that they wanted to bring this forward to discuss in a work session. So that being said, we're going to discuss the mural issue, but in addition to that, feeling like since we're taking this opportunity to discuss things related to the sign ordinance, Jim and Suzanne have a couple other things that feel are relevant, and we'll use this time more efficiently by sprinkling in these two other issues, and they'll elaborate on what they are. So.
Okay. So the murals is on your agenda now, or at the current meeting, and the other two elements we've advertised for, they will go to Planning Commission in December, and y'all will see them in January. Just to lay a little bit of a foundation, the sign ordinances are highly litigated under the First Amendment at the Supreme Court, and there's been a lot of case law on it. The two highlighted in red, the 2015 Reed versus the Town of Gilbert and the 2022 Austin versus Reagan National Advertising, those are posts. Those cases have happened since much of our sign ordinance was written. There have been a few tweaks in the last 10 years, but the 2015 Reed versus Town of Gilbert is a landmark case that made sign ordinances have to be content neutral. They can only look at things that don't have anything to do with the sign. If you have to read the sign to determine if the ordinance applies, then you've gone too far. So they basically, the Supreme Court distinguishes between three levels of speech: the political non-commercial speech as core protected, commercial speech is protected but still more regulatable, and then the other type of speech is not protected: obscenity, defamation, and incitement. But in this post-Reed world, you can make ordinances about size, materials, lighting, moving parts, portability, whether they're allowed in the right-of-way, whether they're allowed in certain locations, distinctions based on zoning district, if a sign is freestanding versus attached, if it has fixed versus changeable copy, and the total number allowed, or if there's time restrictions on signs. All of those things don't have anything to do with the content of the sign, so you can regulate those. Just to point out, this is of the campaign signs in our ordinance. It's a subject that it's problematic because you have to read the sign to say this is a campaign sign. We also specify that you can only have one sign per elective position or referendum position on residential properties. So we're looking at proposing some revisions to the sign ordinance to fix this and kind of still implement what the city is looking for in terms of clutter and the visual landscape, but not run afoul of the Supreme Court. And it's going to be a work with legal and everyone else to work on this section. And it also would probably apply to signs like this on Little River Neck Road. that we've gotten a lot of calls about lately. It's not commercial, it's not campaign, but, you know, it's a viewpoint that's been really protected at the Supreme Court level. So we could regulate the size of it, but we can't really tell people they can't have a message at all. Anyway, so that's the lay the foundation for everything. Moving into the murals aspect of the workshop, just to present a case study with the Greg Rawls Theater. This business in town, like many businesses, we have a limited sign allowance per business. And many businesses use the max of their sign allowance at the beginning. They go ahead and make sure they've got their 150 square feet or whatever they're allowed when they open up. In this case, they were interested in doing a mural, and they wanted to have commercial content in the mural. But our sign ordinance prevented that. And so we're proposing to change that by adding this extra part: murals shall not be considered signs. A mural may include incidental commercial references, provided that such content does not exceed 10% of the total mural area. This content shall be considered in addition to the signage otherwise permitted for the property and shall not count against the maximum sign allotment, but is limited to 15% of the total sign area otherwise allowed on the property. So in the case of the Greg Rawls Theater, they had a 300 square foot maximum, 150 square foot because they were highway commercial, another 150 square foot for the theater. And they were proposing doing a mural in this location. Here was the proposed mural. The square feet of that Greg Rawls Legacy Theater was 28, but they weren't allowed to do that because they had maxed out their sign allowance. By our proposal, they would be allowed to do an extra 45 square feet in the mural. Now, this is an interesting case because they actually have had the permit issued, and so I want to explain. The sign exists now. So I just want to explain how that happened. If you look at these rectangles here, we allow up to an 8-sided shape to get your square footage. So they were able to go back to their original allotment and get some more out of that by making the shapes 8-sided instead of rectangular. So they could add more here, and they got more square foot in this location and in the corners, if that makes sense. So the permit was issuable because they still had the copy they could add, if that makes sense.
So they were able to put their name in the mural because they had extra footage they had not used.
Exactly,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
So that's how we were able to issue that permit.
Okay.
And then the last issue that we wanted to talk about was subdivision signs. And this doesn't really have anything to do with what's allowed by law, more about changing styles and design that we are seeing coming forward. As an example, the Del Webb sign, it's a new architecture trend to have the subdivision sign on a building, but currently our subdivision ordinance requires you to count that entire square footage of that towards the sign. Now, the Del Webb was allowed because it was a PDD, and council reviews all those signs, so you approve that sign. But at Marshfield, they're proposing this for their sign. It's a structure. It's much taller than 7 feet, and so we would have to count the entire square foot area towards the sign, which is well over their maximum. So the ordinance revision we're proposing for that is that we're increasing the sign area per entrance from 20 to 30, an aggregate of 60, and we're increasing the height up to 25 feet for subdivision signs. We're allowing a secondary subdivision sign not to exceed 20 and 40 and 10 feet. And then we're also stating that the supporting structures on which the sign copy is attached shall not be calculated as signage, whereas in the rest of our ordinance, it does count towards the signage.
Go back to the picture.
This one, I'm sorry.
Is that one? Right. So now, we can't, that whole tower
We do.
as a sign.
And you're limited to, what is it, 7 feet? Yeah, it can't be higher than 7 feet.
Okay.
The whole tower is about 22 feet.
All right. So I guess, like at the shopping center, do we consider that tower the whole sign?
Yes, ma'am, but that was also a PDD.
That was a PDD. No, that's right. This is not.
Right.
Okay.
This would just apply to subdivision signs only, and like Suzanne said, the trend is for them not to just stick 2 poles in the ground with a sign face, but to have some kind of really architecturally nice
Right.
sign feature. But the way our ordinance is written, that entire thing would have to count as signage as opposed to just the copy that's on it. So,
This is a housing development?
yes.
And where is this?
It's the Lorette Tract, water tower in Long Bay.
Okay.
And there will be a height restriction
Well,
or change?
yeah, I mean, right now, a sign like that would not be allowed because of the height restriction. So this would sort of free up
So what's our height restriction now, 10?
7, yeah.
Pardon?
7 feet for a
7.
subdivision sign,
And we are increasing it to what?
25.
25.
So that way, they could accommodate that on a structure.
Would there be any oversight on the, we would know what's going,
Yes, I mean,
Appro-
they would have to apply for a sign permit.
right, okay.
So we would be able to calculate all
And
of
when they
that.
apply for that permit, the sign's already designed?
Sometimes, but, if they, usually they'll call ahead of time and ask what the ordinance means or what they're allowed before they design it, but sometimes they don't, and then we have to tell them that's not approvable.
I have no problem with the 25 feet if the design, it fits the neighborhood. Now, if the design, that looks like the design would fit in a neighborhood. But, people get crazy sometimes when they're building signs, and they may do a totem pole or something like that that's 25 feet. How do we control that?
You really wouldn't be able to unless it was in a PDD.
You're right.
Now, if that was a concern, we could take a step back and take a look at, some kind of additional architectural standards that we could add to it. It would be difficult to contemplate sort of a boilerplate set of rules that would accommodate every scenario, but it's something we could look at.
What about like a height width proportionate to the road frontage? So in other words, the wider the property was, the entrance, it could go up to the 25 feet is if it became smaller, so it's not like say that you had a straight, 10 lots, not a lot of lots, but if you had a parcel that maybe was 70 feet wide, and that you'd have 50-foot, wide lots or something like that, and a 20-foot wide street, I mean, would it make some sense to have some kind of a formula for that?
We can look at that. I'm thinking of a scenario where I've seen one style of sign design I've seen for subdivisions is they have like a very low slung sort of wall, and it might be 30 feet long.
Right.
And, but only 4 feet high, and they'll have the signage on that. And that can look just as good as somebody putting a little, tower up. It's tough to come up with a set of architectural standards that would accommodate creativity that a lot of these people are asking for, but we'll definitely take a look at it and see if we can recommend something.
Can we put in the ordinance over 10 feet, it must be approved by the planning commission, or?
The planning commission would not typically look at something like that. We could make it a special exception. Like we could say, here's what's allowed by right, and then anything above that is a special exception that the BZA would approve. And then one of the things that the BZA would have to determine, one of the findings of fact would be that it's in harmony with the neighborhood.
Right.
So that's something we could look at.
I just think that there's some way, that's a big sign. And I like the design, but, you know, I'm thinking of the future and what can be built. You know, somebody could put
It
a
might be
25-foot
that-
quail in there.
It might be if there's certain forms of sign that you find objectionable, we can call those out as unapprovable, like pylon signs, for example. You know.
Well, you could do that, or animals signs, or, you know, shaped like animals.
I'm just thinking of just some type of oversight.
There's got to be a way to have oversight.
Okay.
that-
Yeah,
that
we can look
know
at
what's
some
gonna be-
combination of, you know, prohibiting certain objectionable types of signs and/or a process by which the BZA could approve as a special exception if it goes over a certain size. Maybe we can take a look at that.
What do you guys think?
I mean, in that particular case, it looks okay, but I'm kind of wondering why we had picked 7 feet at some point in time, and now we're going to 25. It just seems like a big change.
Back then, people weren't really doing subdivision signs that had this level of architectural detail and presence. They were just putting a couple of poles in the ground and with a panel between them and saying, you know, such and such subdivision.
Yeah.
This is a relatively new trend that people are asking for, and it just cannot be accommodated in our current ordinance.
Well, I have seen them in other cities. I've seen the towers.
Mount Pleasant, yeah.
Mount Pleasant has them, yes, I've seen them.
Yeah, or look at a subdivision like in Carolina Forest, the farm. You know, they
I've
built
seen
like a
that.
little barn that I think
Yeah.
their signage is on the barn.
Right. And I understand that, and I just want, but that was a PDD. I think, was Caroline Forest a PDD?
I'm not sure if that subdivision was a PDD.
It may not have been, but I would, for some reason, I thought it
A
was.
lot of Carolina Forest is. I'm not sure about that one, but
But I'd still say we got to have some way of having some control so that it just doesn't get wild.
yeah, I think we could take a look at some architectural standards that will address that concern.
Is there any magic to the number 10 lots? I was just trying to put it in, you know, when you say 10 lots and then you look at this, there's a little bit of disparity there, and that was the only reason I said I'm not ridiculing the 10. I was just,
I almost think the market will kind of take care of that, you know.
that's probably most likely true. I've just
If you got a 10-lot subdivision, you're not going to put that
Yeah.
sign up.
unless it's rather exclusive.
Yeah.
Is there a width restriction?
I don't think so, no.
Well, personally, if I was going to be here, I would like to see it come back with some changes.
Okay,
Um,
do that.
that's-
I agree. I'm okay with it. You know, you think about it, where I've seen them in other places, they do look good. So I'm okay with it, but yeah, there are a little bit, a few concerns.
Okay. Yeah, we'll be happy to take a look at that.
Hank, what do you think?
Well, I like it, but I see where how do you write it up so that you end up with this type of architectural appeal versus,
Right.
well, it can be 25 feet and it can be this big, and what constitute the sign portion of this example right here? Is it just the the M part plus the Marshfield, or is it some area?
Yeah, right, you would calculate, was it the 8-sided still? Yeah, so what you do is you have a hypothetical geometric shape that that encompasses the M and the Marshfield, and that geometric shape can be up to 8 lines, so you'd have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 around the M and the Marshfield. And so the smallest geometric shape, of no more than 8 sides that encompasses that is how you would measure it.
Okay.
But right now, you could not possibly do that because the ordinance says that you count everything that you're seeing there.
All right, I'd like to see you work on it some more. I mean, I think I like to be able to approve something that looks like this.
Okay.
And we can write the ordinance to a fashion that somebody can have they can control the architectural aspect of it.
Yeah, just off the top of my head, I'm thinking that special exception thing with the BZA might be a good alternative to
'Cause
explore.
as you ride around, it's not uncommon, particularly down further south at the subdivisions, to see pedestal signs like this on their entrance, particularly around Hilton Head and back in that section.
Yep. Okay, well,
Yeah, I just think some type of oversight on, that we know what's coming.
That's right.
And it fits the neighborhood. And this will go through planning and zoning and come back to
Yes.
us.
But I mean, ultimately, we're trying to regulate something that's subjective. I mean, it might just be a sign, but I mean, these are architectural review board type, I mean, that's what we're looking at. And then, so you're gonna give the ultimate decision someone's gonna have to make the ultimate decision whether or not the aesthetic meets, what we're looking for. So if it's zoning board, then,
and if you don't create a special board to look at that as a actionable item, then really the only approach you can take is to prohibit what you don't want.
Exactly. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Is there any other business?
I mean, do we wanna discuss the mural issue, the 10% further? I mean, that's kind of the catalyst for this meeting. I don't know if that's something, I mean, obviously, they were in a position where they could go and do this sign the way it is, just making it smaller and fitting it in under the sign ordinance, so they didn't have to do it considered a mural. But let's say that was not an option for them. Let's get, the original issue is if they wanted to go put that mural up, if they put that mural up without Greg Rose Theater on there, they could easily go do that. They didn't need any level of.
Anyone can put a mural on their business.
Correct. But the issue was, okay, well, as a business owner, I don't know how much of an incentive it is just to paint the side of your building unless you're really into art or you really think it, enhances the way your building looks. I would think for a business owner, the benefit would be putting your name on the mural, so it draws attention to it. But the way it's currently structured, you couldn't do that because it would be considered a sign at that point. So by giving it 10% where you could go ahead and do the mural, put that on the side of your building, but also have the benefit of putting your business on there, but only up to 10% so that it is, it's not overwhelming.
If this worked out great.
Right, so I think he would have ultimately done the same thing. He probably just would have covered the entire side of the building as opposed to scaling it down. But
In this particular instance, if I'm reading this correctly, they only used about half of the available space.
Well,
So
actually.
in other words, that you could actually stretch that, if you wanted, if you took the welcome to part off, you basically could stretch those letters could be stretched down essentially to the top of North Myrtle Beach. And just roughly speaking.
I do have one question. If someone paints a mural on their wall, they cannot use the whole footage of a sign to put on there and a mural, or can they?
If it's an artistic mural, it is not counted as a sign.
Okay.
Yeah, you could put polka dots on the whole thing.
That's another problem.
Is that what this workshop's about, or is this, okay? Because
I think we need to look serious into, the mural has to be approved by the city.
Well, you're forming a board to approve the.
Or by the
our-
Arts Commission.
Yeah, the Arts Commission, that could be
Right.
part of there.
Because sometimes murals can get out of hand.
So this is where I would say, again, we're getting into the subjective. So it's like, it's no different than an architectural review board. If someone says, hey, I want to paint my business in polka dots, I mean, us saying, no, you can't, it's subjective. So I mean, without having something in place and having, basically an ordinance that has architectural or aesthetic requirements, and then having some sort of board that would make the decision ultimately whether or not that fits it or not, which I don't know that that's the path that this council wants to go down. But I mean, if we were to put into place no murals, or that you couldn't paint your building the way you want to paint it, I don't know. Chris would have to chime in on this, but I feel like that's a pretty easy target for a lawsuit.
Well, you can already do that. What we're doing is adding that you can add signage to a mural, but you can already paint a mural.
Correct, but I think the question was, murals in itself are something that we need to take a hard look at. Like, if right now any business or anybody can go paint a mural on the side of their building without getting any sort of approval as to what the content or what the design of it is, I mean, then we're getting into now we're talking about not signage, we're talking about actually regulating murals and what they look like. That's different. That's like somebody painting their building black or brown. You just have someone who wants to paint it in polka dots or with dragons all over. I don't know, whatever they're into.
Is that,
you want to know how far do you want to take that?
Correct.
too?
So I mean, it's a much deeper conversation than just, oh, we're not going to let murals.
does that not run afoul of the 2015 ruling there? I mean, on the,
You can create methods by which it is okay. If you have an architectural review board that reviews everything in town, for instance.
And districts, like
Yes.
Sea Mountain Highway, Main Street, 17th
Exactly.
Avenue.
Yeah, if you had design districts with an architectural review board, you could stop, or you could review and regulate murals. The question is, do you want to go down that road?
Another workshop.
it's a huge question.
Yeah.
Another layer of bureaucracy that you gotta fight through.
I agree, that's another workshop.
Right, I agree. So I mean, it sounds great in theory, and it seems like it would be something that, yeah, we should probably have some say in before someone goes and paints a building in the middle of the city with something that maybe we're not all on board with. But as it stands right now, I mean, that's the right to do so. But then it is a slippery slope saying, okay, we want to do some sort of architectural review board who's going to go, and everything's going to have to go before these people, however that's organized. And then now you're just opening yourself up to all sorts of criticism.
Well, you may.
Yeah. So I'm not saying we don't have that conversation if that's what council is interested in doing, but
With this particular ordinance, which we developed to try to help this mural, it's not needed if you don't want to move forward with passing that ordinance. Although if you do pass the ordinance, we do feel it would promote more murals in the city and allow people to put some copy on a mural. Yeah.
I personally think that we need to have more conversation on moving forward as a city.
yeah, I mean, if everyone is hesitant about murals to begin with, I mean, this would be an effort to incentivize business owners to put a mural on the side of their building. Because right now, you probably have a lot of business owners who would say, hey, yeah, that sounds like a great idea, but if I can't put the name of my business on it to attract business or let people know this is where my business is because it'll be considered a sign and I can't do that, probably less likely to do it. So this would definitely be an effort to incentivize more murals.
I agree.
So I would definitely then, we'll put the pause on that for now, if that is a concern. And then I don't know that we need to
I'm okay with
necessarily discuss the sign ordinance in terms of regulation of content. It's just that sign that did go up a couple weeks ago about that, we showed in the picture, it does raise an issue that there is nothing that says that that person can't put that up. And while I have no problem with the sign that they have, I mean, it's their right to put that up. It's an innocent enough sign as it is, but think about what people could put in their front yard if they are allowed to put whatever sign up they want to put up. There's a lot of things that people could put up that would be problematic or people would consider to be problematic. So I just think it's something we should probably think about, but
Yeah, we can certainly regulate the number of signs, the size of those signs, how long they can be on the property, but once you start crossing that line where you say, you can't say that, but you can say this, then you can get your hand slapped. So, but like the discussion was said, that we don't need this mural ordinance to solve Greg Roll's problem anymore. So if you want to move forward because you think it's a good thing for the city to incentivize other businesses to put murals, we'll move forward with it. If you're not interested in doing that, we can pull it back.
I think we should probably look at it moving forward, let it go through planning and zoning, and then we can make our decision when we see the full ordinance. That's my opinion.
I'm not as much, signage concerns me just because as a city, how far are we wanting to go with murals? That's why I would lean towards having districts, unless we want to see murals up and down 17. That's the main reason I think we should have more discussion and workshops, whatever we need to do before, because as soon as in my time that I was on the BZA, there was quite a few times that people came in front of us wanting to add signage. So I don't know how that would trigger people to come back for signage through murals, but I think we need to really discuss as a city what we want to look like before we put something like this in place that's going to allow anybody in the city of North Myrtle Beach to add a mural to their building for extra signage.
Well, by what I understand, anybody in the city, whether it's on 17 or whatever street, they can paint a mural on their building without this ordinance.
Right.
Well, I mean, one thing about it, I mean, with their name on it, they own it for sure. I mean, if you kind of think at the end of the day, the mural's permissible currently. I don't know that. I guess it's a total another discussion whether we want to prohibit them or regulate them, which all has a lot of complications, which Ryan's just kind of.
Well, if you own the building, you can't prohibit it. So I think personally that just controlling the signage of 10% is probably the correct way to go, because right now there's no ordinance about what they can do with that mural.
the only thing I would say is that it's probably highly unlikely that someone is going to paint their building with a certain design and then slap their name on it if it was something that was going to turn the public off. That's just the way I look at it. But that's,
I agree. I think that's why,
Exactly.
like I said, why I said, you certainly own it if you have your business name on there.
Sure. But that's totally up to council what they would like to do.
so I think we hear you guys loud and clear. We'll probably just let that go, take a rest for a while. And if it's something you want us to bring back for your consideration in the future, certainly we'll do so. But right now, I think everyone just kind of wants to think about it a little bit longer, so that's fine.
Okay.
I'm fine with moving forward, but
All right,
I am as well.
okay.
we yield to the majority either way.
I'm fine. I still think that, like I say, we don't have any control over if they want to paint a mural. I still think that we should have a little bit of control over if you put a mural on your wall, you can only have 10% of that mural with signage. That's what I'm thinking.
I would be okay with that. I mean, I could go either way. I do see, I don't think we want our city painted, murals all over the place that don't look good, but if you look at this, it looks good, and like we said, somebody's not gonna paint a mural and put their name on it and draw, and deter business, so you're gonna see professional things like this, and it looks fine to me. I'm okay.
I'm okay. I certainly think we should put a little wording in it about the 10%.
Absolutely.
Hank?
Okay, well, we went around the circle on that one. But if we're going to, I don't have any objection if we want to add the 10%. I mean, if they can do the mural, I don't know that 10%, but it may make a difference just to motivate somebody to do one. I don't know, just to paint one would probably be, unless you have that really artistic flair and that's what you want to put a beach scene or something on your building. But if we were going to potentially encourage that, it would be a way for somebody to get additional signage by being able to add 10% through the mural.
All right, well, this is why we have workshops. We just watched the evolution of this.
Pushing
yeah,
out everything.
Yeah.
You know, a workshop is talking it out.
Yeah.
And trying to figure out what is the best thing to do.
But it has-
And we have gone around and around
But,
in
but
circles.
I will say that it went from, yeah.
So the only thing I'm confused on here is there was discussion about when the art commission is formed, that if somebody wants to paint a mural, that it would run through them.
So
Are we still on the same page with that?
We are, and that was where I think where the confusion came in. So we established that commission because we were setting up a grant program where we're trying to incentivize local business owners to put a mural up, but we were going to fund part of that mural with those grant funds supplied by the city. So we definitely wanted to have a say in what that was going to be if we were going to pay for part of it. So that's why that was established. But to say,
If they're not going through the grant program.
well, then they can put whatever mural they want up without our approval.
Without our money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
This would limit it to 10% of,
So we just limit it
Yeah,
to 2%.
so that's already on the agenda, right? It's been, was it tabled at first reading, or? Yeah, okay, so it's currently on your agenda. If you take it off the table, you can act on it to give the 10%, to incentivize the creation of more murals. And like Mr. Fabry was saying, that, the only way that the city would be able to regulate what it looks like is if they were applying for city funds going through the Arts Commission.
and not to make it more complicated, but, we talked about the idea of regulating murals in the future. So yeah, something like that could take place. It's just a whole different animal and a whole different conversation. But yes, some sort of mechanism could be put in place where, yeah, murals would have to be approved, but then we're talking about some level of architectural review and us getting in and regulating the subjective, which that's totally up to you if that's the road you want to go down. But that's a separate conversation than this 10%.
That's a whole different
Right.
story.
I mean, I'm fine to put it out there. I consider us a family-friendly beach town. I think our world is changing, and me personally thinks that it might be important to start going down that road because, who knows what could be painted on the side of one of these buildings.
And I think we're more than happy to have that conversation if you want to be the champion for that.
I'm not saying I want to be.
Well, I mean, someone's got to do it. I'm that good, bad, or indifferent. I'm good either way, but someone's got to bring it up and say, hey, let's talk about it. And we might have another workshop, we talk about it, and then we realize you're the only one interested in it, or you might talk yourself out of it. And,
Architectural review
yeah.
boards can be good or it can be bad.
correct.
It's very, it depends a lot on who you have on those boards, and it's basically comes down to their taste.
Yeah, a lot of criticism of those. They say they're the taste police.
A lot of criticism.
And then, managing those has staffing implications, and it introduces delay into permitting.
In some areas, it's got where those who have architectural review boards, they're actually making the decision. And I am not in favor of that at this, and we may need it down the road, but I just think that we better start. and I won't be here, so I shouldn't be saying anything. But you need to step back and look at it seriously before you make the decision to put an architectural
And
review.
if this goes through planning and zoning, and it comes back to us, and we do end up approving it, we could take action in the future if we see that it's getting out of hand. And that's the way like I said, it's a whole nother workshop to go down that road.
It is.
Other than murals, which is a little bit more of an issue, we don't have to go from 0 to 60. We don't have any standards now. We could create some materials that are prohibited or some elements that need to be included in everything. That wouldn't be an architectural review board, but would be some kind of smaller standards or color palettes or in districts. It doesn't have to be all or nothing.
That's right.
Yeah.
I do know a member of the audience has asked if they would be allowed to speak, so I'll leave that up to you.
Okay. Dana, I think you want to say something. Did someone want to say it or something?
Yeah, just on behalf of Destination North
Well,
Myrtle
you
Beach.
need to come to give us your name and address.
Just on behalf of Destination North Myrtle Beach, we put together the whole destination master plan you guys are familiar with, and murals were a huge part of that. We like them, we support them, but also there are a few businesses in key areas of the city who are looking to put murals up and use the signage.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, did you want to speak?
I didn't mention it to anybody, but I would like to. So I'm Dana Brown. I live at 2314 Vera Way. And as some of you may know, I'm from Virginia, where I sat on a BZA for a county that had a population of about 160,000. In addition to that, I was also assigned to a sign code committee when they were updating the code of ordinances. I did go down to Virginia Tech. I did learn about Reed v. Gilbert. We talked about that and how my county was able to get around a lot of this. First of all, a mural was now, after the new ordinance, was considered a wall sign. So that had to comply with all the wall sign stuff. My impression is, after looking at our stuff here, that we've got like nothing. We probably need to revisit our sign code and put some rules in and put some size, some color stuff, but it can be regulated. There's also, I know I mentioned one of your meetings, I was worried about somebody putting up a mural that was somebody, killing somebody or doing something horrible. And it looks like there's some state code that would prohibit some of that. So on the Reed v. Gilbert, I think what that, as I recall, it was directional signs. They had some temporary extra directional signs, and the city was not equally enforcing that amongst all things. So I think they took it as a religious discrimination. So that's kind of how that originated, as I recall. But there are some restrictions in the state, so you can definitely, some of the things that I'm looking on here is it can't be obscene, indecent, photographs. There's a lot of things. But I do think that City of North Myrtle Beach needs to get together and revisit the sign code and put some restrictions in and some regulations. Because if you don't, then you're going to get stuff like this because we don't have any rules in effect. So I would suggest getting a sign code committee together or something. And also, the county I came from, it was not regulated by the BZA or the ARB, the Architectural Review Board. Actually, staff did it because we had a very clear code. So when they applied, it would just had to comply with it was sign review. That's all it was. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Are there any other comments today? Well, if not, I guess our workshop is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, staff, for putting that together.